Welcome to Leadership Moments.
In every great leader's life, there are pivotal moments that shape their character, test their resilience, and awaken their vision.
Together, we'll uncover the invaluable lessons hidden within these transformative moments.
So today we are here with Apurva Wadodkar. She is an accomplished leader in data science and advanced analytics with over 20 years of experience, known for her expertise in developing scalable data solutions. She's collaborated with business leaders across various domains to create tailored strategies for effective decision-making, which of course we love. Apurva plays a pivotal role in fostering diversity and inclusion initiatives, which I think everyone on this call knows I'm very passionate about personally. So as the leader of the Women in the CIO group at Autodesk, she really works to cultivate that next generation of female leaders. And she's also very actively engaged with the community, T200, Sim Detroit, Women in Data, as well as MCWT, and contributing to meaningful conversations and initiatives. And today we're going to start our conversation with getting ready for AI and getting your organization ready for AI. So Apurva, with that, thanks for being with us today. It's fantastic to have you. I always love spending time with you. Your energy is absolutely contagious, and I'm hoping that our audiences will benefit from that. So, you've been in data for a really long time. How do you look at data? How has your AI journey really begun?
Tracy, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. Now, my AI journey started a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you, it was very clear to me right from the beginning that this was not a journey to be had alone. What was top of my mind was I have to take not only my team, but also my business partners on this journey.
Yes.
And so I came up with this 5E framework, which is educate, engage, experiment, expedite, and then educate, right? And the way it works is while you're educating your brand new team, you also educate your business partners. Yes. And at that time, I was a part of innovations group, and we were just bringing an AI practice into the space to see how we can boost our business with these capabilities. And it was a notion that, you throw anything at AI, it's going to succeed, which is not the case, right? The business partners had to be informed about it. Another thing is AI is so broad. When you're starting, it's important that you start with a smaller chunk. So what we did is, as I was working with my business partner, I said, you know what? We can predict something for you. We can predict a number. We can classify things for you. We can cluster it without you telling it how to cluster. It will just like objects. It's going to cluster together. We are not going to do any sort of NLP stuff for you just yet. The team is young. We have to grow. That will be next year. And image recognition, we are working on it. It's coming, but again, not in next 6 months. So it's important you chunk out and not take the whole AI on to yourself at once, which is overwhelming for everybody, frankly. So that was one thing, is educating. And as we were educating, we were telling them, okay, you are a supply chain person, and these are the supply chain use cases that we are able to work with you on. That is our capability right now. And so we got their engagement in this way. Now what I was doing is I was replicating me's, and there were advocates all over the business sitting and saying, oh, maybe this problem can be solved with the 3 things that Apurva has told us. Right. And so that's how we began our journey and momentum, frankly. Experimenting was important. And I'll tell you some of the frameworks I brought in for experimentation, but experimenting was important. You have to create frameworks so it can be reusable. You don't want to keep experimenting on the same thing. And then educate, show the outcomes. Yeah. So all this was important. So this is my proprietary 5E's framework, and it just worked for us. One thing I would mention about the AI portfolio, especially when you're new, is there are so many skeptics, so many misconceptions. There is lack of alignment. And so it's important that your portfolios it's a mix of quick wins and long-term. And quick wins, what they do is First of all, it shows to the world that, yeah, we are capable. It shows to yourself, yes, we are capable, right? The team gets boosted confidence. And I'll tell you, I would never skip short-term wins. They are so crucial to getting that engine into momentum. So just few tips here. That's how we did it.
Well, I want to just go back to something you said. Well, first of all, I want you to say the 5 E's again, because I love them. So for our audience, let's hear them again.
It's educate, engage, experiment, expedite, and educate.
Love it. Okay. So there you have it. There's the 5 E's again. But there's something that you're talking about here, which to me is the journey you take people on when anything is new and scary. The first step is if people are not educated, they're fearful because they don't know what's coming. Secondly, you've got to make it palatable for them. If you give them the big vision and they don't even understand what it is, that is really scary and overwhelming. And it's very hard to get buy-in, especially as an influencer.
True.
To me, what you're talking about is, really critical. And I'm really glad you brought it up in that framework, because even that in itself helps people get on to the AI journey. Now, when we were talking about it, one of the questions I asked, and I'd love the audience to hear it from you directly, is how do you approach building and managing high-performing data science and AI teams? And then what are the key factors for success in teams, collaboration, and innovation? And I know this is a big area for you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start with one thing. Traditional projects, first of all, there's a project flavor to it, setting expectations. And I tell you, half the battle is won if you have set the right expectations. Yeah. Only 53% of AI projects see the light of the day. They are actually put in production. So that's a major mind shift.
53%.
53% only.
Yeah. Interesting.
As opposed to the other traditional projects we do, and your business partners feel you put in X amount of effort and you get outcomes.
That's right.
In this case, you put X amount of effort and there can be zero outcomes. So when I was setting up this whole thing, this was part of our education, that here is how we are going to manage our projects. Right. And I'll tell you how I did it, but everybody has their own ways. We said we are going to have 3 approaches. After all the discussions, we'll come up with 3 approaches. Each approach will run for 4 weeks, and we are going to choose 3 models to experiment on, and whichever model gives us the best accuracy, that will be our winner. If approach 1 doesn't work, like none of the experiments are giving us the accuracy, very poor, 50% accuracy, we're going to move on to approach 2 and then approach 3. If one of these approaches succeed, we are going to do X amount of work to productionize this. There is so much work to be done. If none of these approaches work, we have 2 options. We decide as a team to either stop the project or we come up with new approaches. And another thing which was made clear to everybody is this is not AI cannot be just an IT initiative. The most important aspect of AI is how do you come up with those approaches, which you, the business leader, the expert in the field, is going to tell me. And simple example, you are predicting the cost of the home, and the experiment is giving the data, how many bedrooms, what's the square footage. A layman would say, oh, zip code, what else do you need? That's what determines the home cost. But a real estate person would tell you, is there a pool in the background? Look, I never knew that. If there's a pool, it deteriorates the home costs because nobody wants to maintain it, right?
Interesting.
Stuff like that. And an IT person would never know about this. So feature engineering is such an important aspect. So the partnership exceptionally important that you, the expert, tell us how to drive this. We were doing another project and we had to predict the accounts payable and accounts receivable for our company, basically how much we are paying our suppliers and how much we are getting from our customers. And how do you do it without invoices? Obviously, there are no invoices, so you can't make that as your approach. We had 200 plants. Every country has something economically going on. There can be a locational problem that Brexit was happening, and all our customers were moving out of Britain. And that's a very British problem. How do you generalize this? So the approach cannot be put economy index and what all other things. Never going to work. Then you have to create one model for each plant. So what the approach we came up with is we are going to use a proxy number. There are controllers at every plant who know all these factors. They are putting a prediction of sales numbers that are going to happen. We are going to sell X number of things this month. And we are going to base our model on how accurate they are from the trends. That was our approach. And it simplified the whole thing so drastically. And we were getting very, very good numbers that our finance analysts were crunching numbers. They were doing it for the invoices they had, but without invoice, this was fabulous. 6 months of prediction of liquidity was fabulous. So that's how important that sense of who's driving this. Yeah. You, the expert, is telling us what to do. And we are here to take you through this journey. So that's one thing. Now, coming to your original question of how do you build the teams? There are a couple of things I would do is, first of all, training budget in AI is an absolute must.
Yes.
You wake up and there's something new. And seriously, this is happening for past several years.
Absolutely.
And so this training plan, it's very crucial. Upskilling, important. I feel no other area needs as much upskilling as data science. Another thing is when you're new, I would sort of bring in consultants. Yeah. And I would mix my team and consultants together. So now the team is getting exposure to how things are done, the mindset, all of those good things. And in maybe 4 or 5 months, your team is now as good as the consultant. Then you can let the consultant go. So that pairing and giving your own people chance to learn without shoving them aside. No, all this is going to be consultants. No, we want to ultimately train our own people to get there.
The part about that, which I really love, is I think to your point, none of us build anything in a vacuum, and no organization, if you are focused on shareholder value, can produce low-level results if you don't have an integrated strategy. Technology is at the core of every single thing we do. So the business has to be working with IT. IT has to be working with the business. But your examples for me, I think, were actually really critical for our audience, because when you do software development and things like that, they always say, bring in the anthropologist, bring in the human side of this, the human element. In this case, it's bringing in the business element. There's always nuances. I also loved your example on the global scale, because we know that the US, Asia Pacific, and Europe are in different cycles, lifestyle of growth, innovation, lots of different regulations. You can go on and on and on. And they sell differently, they function differently. It is just completely different. So you can't put the same models in place. You have to work on those factors that impact that specific business. So I loved that. And I think that's such a valuable takeaway for this audience, is to be very consciously aware of the collaboration with the business and how impactful that is certainly in the experimentation phase and what you actually end up building. Now, I know the latest field, right? Gen AI, here we come. What is Autodesk doing in this area?
This is so new. And I tell you, much of last year, again, we were just absorbing and watching what's going on. We were not at a position where we could even start any solid POCs or anything. But this year is all different. At this time in our CIO org, there are like 40 Gen AI POCs going on. And yeah, it's crazy. But it is awesome how everybody wants a piece of it. I feel this year, with Microsoft giving us those APIs and then so many open source models that are just, it's democratized, I'll tell you, so quickly. And it's scary how fast this has happened.
Totally. Oh my gosh.
So that's where we are with all these 40-some use cases. The one example I'll give you is, let's take marketing example. Marketing reps, they have to put together all this content for customers. And they spend a lot of time customizing it for each sort of either segment or specific customer. And so one of the POCs we have is to expedite that content creation for them. You give it a context, LLM is going to generate a nice little format that you have, you give templates to it, and it will do it. So if you're spending like 30, 40 minutes and curating and finding all this information, putting it together, that's 40 minutes productivity gain. And now our people are going to be able to concentrate on something other than writing content. I wish I had that sort of assistant. Some of the emails are so crucial. You take 20, 30 minutes to just write them properly. Nobody highlights this, that this is how much time we are spending on communication or writing. So we are bringing those sort of use cases for Gen AI just to boost the productivity of our people.
I would add to that, because you're touching on an area that I've done a lot of investigation in terms of productivity around the marketing tools, the writing tools, the whole sort of entire marketing suite, let's say. And I'll tell you, a major value that people do not understand is the cost savings. When you're paying someone to do it versus anyone who writes content will tell you it is a lot easier to edit something than write it yourself. In terms of time, I looked up the other day, there's 168 tools out there just for productivity and writing tool and all that kind of stuff. I don't even know what they all are, but I'll tell you, I have used many of them and personally have saved myself an exorbitant amount of money just because of the cost it would take for me to go get a videographer, a content writer, a proofreader, a copywriter. I mean, you can go on and on and on. So I really see that's where I think most of the shift has been so far, at least externally to internal. But I do think, and this is going to lead me to some of the second pieces, which is there's responsibility on all of us, because if we think about the era of the cloud, we had a situation where there was a lot of shadow IT. And ultimately what that led to is inside of most organizations, people who have very I'll call it religious points of view about technology or software or platforms or whatever you want to call it, but they are AWS or they are Google or they are Microsoft or whatever. And so as a result, most companies have the 2 to 3 platforms that they're using. I think it's normalized to some degree where it's now much more integrated, but there was a lot of shadow IT. So here's my question as, a leader in the organization. We talk a lot about AI, and we can't talk about it without talking about ethics, governance, and responsibility. Not only you, but, also people who work in the organization. And what are those ethical data practices that we all need to be taking into consideration?
Yeah, and I tell you, this is becoming a huge deal lately. I would say if you are starting new, start with basic reviews. We have legal reviews, we have security reviews, privacy reviews. You can bring in your network experts for that sort of review also. If you are feeling that data is all over the place and it's moving, do those sort. And I tell you, you don't have to do it alone. Create that committee where experts you present your architecture and they find, oh, this can go wrong. Oh, this rule forbids this. So have that village with you who can do it. One thing I want to touch on is trust in AI. AI sometimes becomes a black box. It's important for establishing that trust. How do I trust what this AI is telling me is correct? And a couple of things help in this scenario. One is, I was reading it that according to research, if you give even piecemeal amount of control to a human on an AI outcome, their trust is going to go through roof. You don't have to tell them what's the algorithm, nothing, but give them control a little bit and they'll do it. And simple example on LinkedIn, let's say it gives you, these are the jobs for you. You have control over it. You look for something else and it starts giving you that. Same with YouTube, but it's helping you boost what you want to do, not, so you have control over that. So try to do that. Second is transparency is important. And I'll tell you, especially if you're using deep learning algorithms, it becomes, even data scientist doesn't know how it's working. Like I took an example of the house rent. We don't know what the neural network, or rather throw 1,000 cat images at the neural network. It's going to learn what it's going to learn. We don't know what it has learned, but it's going to identify cats. What's important in this case is not you showing your code base to people who are using it, but telling them what was the approach. In case of the home rent, we tell them it's the bedrooms. You know what? The bedrooms are most important, or bathrooms, or whatever that is. These are the inputs we are giving. And then you don't even know what that algorithm is doing, but you now have faith in the output of the cost of that home, right? Just by me telling you what my approach was. And so that transparency is important. And finally, I would say from audits, again, audits are so important because there are biases that are coming through the training data set. So, and this is a very famous example that Google, it trained a model on resumes, and the output was whether selected or not selected. And the funny part about AI is if you give it 99 male resumes and 1 female resume, you know what it's going to learn? There are high probability or high chances of me being right, but if I just reject a female. And that's because you only gave 1 resume in the training data set. You trained it on such low. And literally this happens, right? Even between, let's say there are images you're giving, Pepsi versus Coca-Cola. If you give less number of data sets for a certain category, it's going to just learn and always give it alone or reject or whatever. So that was one. And then these sort of things, again, it's not a team of 5 people or 3 people, how many ever people you have. Sometimes we don't have that visibility. And an external auditor can come with a fresh perspective and say, hey, did you think about this? And bias doesn't always mean race or gender or color. Or it can, as I said, if you are giving less number of cat pictures as opposed to dog, it's going to learn that. So very important. Audits are important and external perspective is important. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I love it. And first of all, just for the audience, this is fascinating. I mean, really fascinating. There's so much to unpack here. And Apurva, as you continue on your journey, we will definitely have you back on. And I love all the case studies and the use cases and that, because I think it just gives everybody here, all of our guests, just a little bit of food for thought, and to perhaps and hopefully look at the exciting opportunity, as well as I think the challenge of really mastering this, which is so fantastic. I really do believe the responsibility piece and the ethics piece and the governance piece, that'll be worked out. It will be, because it has to be, and that's an organizational and a leader responsibility in my mind. The impact and the value to me that you are talking about here is what gets me most excited about where we are in this whole scheme of things, right? Which is just incredible. Oh, hold on, there's that sound. So I'm going to pivot here. Okay. All right. So we always ask a couple of fun questions here at the end. What is your favorite sound?
Favorite sound. Okay. That would be the sound of birds in the morning.
Why?
My husband hates it, but
so does mine. That's why I asked.
Love it. It just brings in new hope. I feel we are nothing without the birds. And I would like, what's going on today? No birds. And the winters are so bad. You don't hear them. Yeah. And I miss them. So to me, it's the bird.
I love that.
Not the rooster, by the way, just
yeah, not the rooster. Another one for you. What's the most unusual hobby you've ever tried or would like to try? Maybe not unusual, but what's a hobby?
Yeah. Well, I have been trying my hand at gardening for a really long time. Now, let's say my husband is really good. My mother-in-law, awesome. Me, not so much. I kill pretty much anything I plant. So I would over nurture it or under nurture it, and it's awful. So I wish if I could become an expert at gardening, I would totally do that.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, it's funny you say that, because I do actually do well with plants outside, but inside I kill everything. And I'll just share this experience with you. I was walking with our nephews the other day and I asked if I could buy a plant. And my husband looked at me and went, "You really want an indoor plant?" And I went, "Well, it's not for me." And I had to explain myself because everyone was looking at me like, "You're going to kill this one as well." And my nephew said, "Yeah, you need to have just fake plants inside."
I have fake plants inside. I don't bother about inside. Outside.
So I can really understand. And the next time we see each other, I'm going to ask how that hobby's
How
going.
many plants dead this month?
Yeah, exactly. Or make sure you plant them outside so you've got outside factors contributing to the health.
Nature taking care of.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Apurva, always fantastic to spend time with you, and thank you. And to our audience, I hope that this was a very valuable session. I certainly loved having you on here talking about AI. We will absolutely have you back as we continue this journey, and look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn. And how can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I am pretty active.
Excellent.
I like to write. This year, my goal is to write better.
Awesome.
And so I do consume my articles. I love feedbacks.
Wonderful. Yeah. And for our audience, subscribe and let us know, give us feedback and what you want to hear from Apurva. And who knows, maybe she'll write a couple of articles for you. Awesome. Well, thanks, Apurva. Great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Tracy Ann. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, fantastic. Take care.
And that concludes another episode of Leadership Moments. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights in what we shared today. Remember, leadership is not defined solely by titles or positions, but by the choices we make and the moments that shape us.
Embrace the challenges that come your way. They may be the very moments that propel you toward greatness. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories as well. Connect with us on our website at leadershipmomentspodcast.com or through social media on Instagram at @be the game changer.
And StacyCaster_. Remember, your leadership moment could be just around the corner, waiting for you to seize it. This is Stacy Caster, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
This is Tracy Ann Palmer, and be the change you wish to see in the world.